biblical scholar that knows everything about scriptures. I don't lay that claim to my name or my profession. But these biblical texts that we read are instructive for us. And you can preach them one time and God can say one thing, and preach them another time and God can say another thing. But you got to really look at these biblical texts, because in every line and in every word, there is a lesson. Daniel chapter 3, verse 25 is a good one. I preached this story before, you've heard it before. But I just want to focus on, in this particular sermon, about what's going on in the furnace. What's going on in the furnace? This hot furnace, this furnace that they've been thrown into. Because this story is the entire chapter in Daniel chapter 3. It really begins in chapter 3 by talking about this image that Nebuchadnezzar had erected of himself. Head of gold, chest of silver, and then bronze, and then a wood base. He erected it because he wanted to get his kingdom to recognize, and some scholars believe, his greatness. And he wanted everybody to bow to this image. This was his idea and the idea of his governmental officials. And some scholars believe it was a loyalty test to see if everybody that was with Nebuchadnezzar was with Nebuchadnezzar. And there was this group among these officials called the Chaldeans. They really didn't like Daniel and his three friends, because in chapter 2, Daniel and his three friends were able to do what they couldn't do, and that was to interpret the king's dream. And because they interpreted the king's dream, it elevated them in the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar. And because it elevated them above these Chaldeans that were in positions of power, it made them jealous. They didn't like that Daniel and his three friends, Rashach, Meshach, and Abednego, had been promoted to this position of authority and elevated to this position of honor. And by chapter 3, they let their jealousy of these three Hebrew boys be known. Because when this image was erected, there was a day that there was music played. The king had decreed that at the playing of the music, everybody was to bow and to worship the image. The problem with that is that these three Jewish young men who arrived in Babylon at about 18 years old from Jerusalem are now 30 years old. The problem with worshiping and bowing and worshiping, is that they read the Ten Commandments because they were Jewish. And the first Ten Commandments says, "Thou shalt have no other God besides me." And then that second commandment says, "Thou shalt not worship any image." The Problem was they knew the word. They knew to have no other God. They knew not to bow to any images. That was the problem in chapter 3. And they didn't bow. Even though Nebuchadnezzar and the government officials said you got to bow as homage to the king and as honor to the king, they refused to bow because their loyalties was to God. And they really wanted to honor their faith and their belief in God, the monotheism of the belief in one God. And they was not willing to share the honor of bowing and worshiping with any other God, not an image set up by Nebuchadnezzar. They were faithful to God. Because they were faithful to God, the Chaldeans went and ratted on them and told Nebuchadnezzar, say, you got 3 boys in your kingdom. Everybody else at the sound of the music dropped down on their knees, bowed their heads, lifted their hands, and worshiped the image. But them 3 boys stood up when everybody else bowed down and worshiped. That's in chapter 3. They refused to bend the knee. They refused to lift their hands to worship the image that you have erected. Nebuchadnezzar got hot because he thought everybody ought to bow and worship him. The 3 Hebrew boys remembered, thou shalt have no other God besides me. I shall not worship any image, any golden image, or any image, or make a God out of any image. I'm going to tell you what the Lord said in the 10 Commandments. He said, for I am a jealous God. You do know God is jealous. And he ain't going to put up with or stand for you bowing and worshiping any God other than him. And so the Chaldeans ratted them out and told on them. And the king summons them. And they got in front of the king, and the king started talking and asking them questions. One of my favorite verses in chapter 3 is the end of verse 15. Because verse 15, the King Nebuchadnezzar is going to ask the 3 Hebrew boys a question. Because if you read the end of chapter 15, and Nebuchadnezzar going to say to you, wait a minute now. Who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? Nebuchadnezzar done got hot. And he told them, listen, he said, I'm going to give you one more chance. You didn't do it the first time, but I'm going to give you another chance. But if you do not worship, I'm in verse 15, you shall be cast into the fiery furnace immediately. And then he started talking that big talk. And who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? I can stop right there and make a point. Nebuchadnezzar thought he was bigger and better than God. Because he said to him, now who is the God? I like him making that proclamation just really a challenge. Who is the God that's greater than me? who is the God that's going to deliver you? I'm not going to rush over there to chapter 3, verse 24, but God going to answer that question. God going to answer that question, who he is. Nebuchadnezzar is asking the three Hebrew boys, who is the God that will deliver you from my hands? I really want to explain this to you. No matter how great the hands of anybody is, they ain't greater than God. They might be powerful, might be in position, and they might have authority, but their hands are not greater than God. I told you next week, but I need to remind you, because we're in the midst of a government shutdown, that the hands of the Senate, Congress, the president, their hands ain't greater than God. They got a lot of power with the purse, power with legislature, power with the executive branch, and then we got Supreme Court, the judicial branch, but these branches of government ain't more powerful than the hand of God. And Nebuchadnezzar has said, who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? I can give you a second implication that's in this one verse. Nebuchadnezzar says, I got you, now who gonna get you out? There's a whole lot of folk think they got you trapped because of their power and influence. But God. Nebuchadnezzar's really saying, who gonna get you out of my hands? You in my hands, and I got your life and your future in my hands. But verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they answer the king. Boy, this answer is brilliant. Well, you want to talk about a good response. Now, I told you this is about when God gets involved. God ain't involved yet, but God gonna get involved. But not until around verse 25. God ain't involved yet, but now they finna start talking big talk. Nebuchadnezzar talking big talk. Now the three Hebrew boys finna talk big talk. God ain't involved yet. God ain't got involved yet. God is just watching, and God is listening. And they finna start talking. They start talking about God even though they don't see God moving and God acting, but they gonna start talking. And they said, O king, Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to really answer you in this matter. And really, you know what they were saying in the modern vernacular? We really don't want to say nothing, but I guess you want us to. Because we really don't have to say nothing. But since you want us to say something and talk, we'll go ahead and talk and tell you how we feel about this matter. Because I can tell you right now, if you don't say nothing, God will still do something. You don't really have to brag on God for God to do what God gonna do. But these three Hebrew boys said, since you want us to, we'll brag on him a minute. And if the case is what they say in verse 17, the God to whom we serve is able. Ain't that big talk? God ain't even done nothing yet. And they talking about God is able. And I really wanted to entitle this sermon, Sister Jefferson, God with you in it before you get in it. That's what I wanted to entitle this message. Because sometimes God will let you get in it and He won't do nothing until you get in it. And God will be silent until you get in some stuff, especially if the stuff is for Him. And they said, the God whom we serve is able. That's shouting stuff. Because when you got confidence about who God is, it don't make no difference what's in front of you. Ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no river wide enough. When you know God is able, Steen, ain't no challenge. Ain't no challenge gonna bring no fear when you know God is able. When you know God is able, you get confident that you can face whatever is in front of you, whatever is around you, and whatever is chasing you from behind. They said God is able. And to deliver us, they said two things, Judge, and I really want you to get this. They said that God is able to deliver us from the fiery furnace. That's one thing. Because, see, they knew what the fiery furnace could do. The fiery furnace was to burn. But then they said something else that really probably ticked them off. He can deliver us, and He able to deliver us from the fiery furnace. And then they also said in that text, from your hand. Now, God is able to deliver us from the fiery furnace. And you know what the fire is meant for, is to burn you up, to take you out and destroy you. But He can deliver us from the fiery furnace and from your hand. But listen, really and truly, they gave God, in their response to Nebuchadnezzar, they gave God the hard task first. Because they could have said, God gonna deliver us from your hands. We ain't even gonna get in the fiery furnace. But look at the order of their response. He gonna deliver us from the fire, which is the hard part. Deliver us from your hand, which is the easy part. But if they'd have said He gonna deliver us from your hand, that means they wasn't gonna never go in the fire. But I come to tell somebody, Michael, sometimes He don't keep you out of the fire. He'll let you get in some fires to get you out of some fires. I can speculate why He did that, because God will show out sometimes, especially when it comes to you. Because you know what they said, don't read it too fast, Sister Andrea. They said, the God we serve. We've been serving this man for a long time. Ever since we left Jerusalem, came to Babylon, since 18, since we've been here, we've been serving the Lord. And He able. Boy, if I had time, I'd explain this to you, that if God been doing it, God can keep doing it. And if you ever lose faith and fear comes and sets in, think about what He already done. He done kept you this long. He done brought you through what you've been through every valley, over every mountain. And see, I want some of y'all to just quit complaining and fussing and praying for better And I just want you to start thanking God that you're still here. You might not have what you want. You might not be in the best of health, but you still here. And the old church would say you still got a reasonable portion of health and strength. But Cannon, I didn't know what that meant until I just looked over there and you got that cane leaning up against that pew. That means you can't walk like you used to, but you can walk. Because he give you a reasonable portion. Because it could be you couldn't even been able to walk in here. But with that cane, you got a reasonable. And with a reasonable portion of health and strength, you got up, dressed up, came down the steps of your house, got in your car, got out your car, walked down that aisle. Listen, I take a reasonable portion. And because listen, if God can do with a reasonable portion, I take that. And see, you got to be careful because you got to be thankful for what you got. And they say he going to deliver us from the fiery furnace, the hard part. And he going to deliver us from your hand. But if not, man, every theologian I read said that this is the part you got to really know that they know the Lord. Because listen, they ain't putting too much pressure on God. They ain't put, see, listen, they wouldn't put no, they said, but if, verse 18, but if not, let it be known, O King, that we do not serve, or we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image. But let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, they was willing to risk everything to demonstrate their faith. They weren't willing to bow. They weren't willing to give in. They were willing to put everything on the line just to demonstrate to the king, that they had faith in God, and to demonstrate to the king that they had trust in God, and to demonstrate to the king that they believed in the reliability of God. Because God will show up if you are trusting. How far are you willing to go for God will determine how far God is willing to go for you. And I tell you, this text talks about, I had about 3 points that I really wanted to lift up before you. And one of them points was in this vein that you gotta, to trust God means you don't know the outcome. You don't know what God gonna do. You don't know how this thing gonna work out. But you say that we know God is able, but we don't know what God gonna do. But whatever God gonna do, that's up to God. I know what we gonna do. We gonna go on in this fiery furnace. We ain't gonna bow. We ain't gonna worship. We don't know what God gonna do. We don't know the outcome of this situation, but we know one thing: we ain't gonna bow and we ain't gonna worship. But we don't know what God gonna do. But we know what He can do. But we don't know what He gonna do. And I need to tell you, my brothers and sisters, in any prayer you pray, any faith you demonstrate, you don't know what God gonna do. You don't know if God gonna answer your prayer. You don't know how. Neither do you know when. Best illustration I give is people who have a loved one on their deathbed and they be praying and they ain't. And if God, and if their loved one ain't healed, it ain't because they don't have faith. It ain't because they don't believe. It's that they trusted God and they didn't know what God was going to do. But just because God didn't answer the prayer the way they wanted it to be answered don't mean they didn't have faith and don't still trust God. They believed in not knowing the outcome because you don't know what God going to do. And that's one of the lessons I want to teach this, because when you pray, when you demonstrate faith, when you stand on your faith and you believe God can and know God is able, you don't know what God's going to do. And I be wishing God answer all my, no I don't, I'm lying. Whew. I'm glad he answered the prayers he know I need answered. And the rest of them, he just throw them in the garbage. You better be glad too. Because you'd have got some stuff you couldn't handle. You'd have got some stuff that would have took you through some stuff that you couldn't have survived. But thank God that he hears my prayers. And he answers my prayers according to his will. And because sometimes you can have faith in God and trust in God and believe in God, but God still determines the outcome. They didn't know what God was going to do. You don't either. You got up this morning, you were praying. You don't know whether you're going to make it home or not. You're going to go home and go to bed and go to sleep, and you don't know whether you're going to wake up in the morning. You've been praying for something or somebody, and you don't know how that situation going to work out, but you're going to keep on praying because you just don't know how things going to work out. And that's one of the lessons I want to teach you. You just don't know how. Well, I tell you, it's something. Because listen, I be praying, and you know these hyper faith folk tell you if you fast and pray and sow a seed, you can get a certain outcome. That ain't true. Because I've been praying for 30 days, fasting a little bit, and I gave a seed at the conference last week. And still I'm waiting on the answer. Now they told me fasting and praying and seeking God and falling on your face. And then I even spoke a little in tongue. Done a little dancing too. Still ain't nothing. Because I don't know what God's going to do. But I know one thing, I'm going to get up and come on to church this morning. You just don't know what God's going to do. Let me give you this second point. If I can really pull it up and out of this text, you got to trust God and you don't really know the outcome. And you got to trust God when you make a whole lot of bold statements and other folk watching you. Because, you know, it was an audience. All the government officials were there. Look at chapter 3. All them folk were there. You know, them satraps and governors and officials and all them government officials and Nebuchadnezzar reminded them, all them folk there. Now, you're doing a whole lot of talking, a whole lot of folk watching. And sometimes you have to put your faith on display when folk watching. And everybody looking at you. And so they got to talking all that big talk. And so Nebuchadnezzar said, that's fine, all right. Y'all keep on talking. He said, matter of fact, y'all done made me so mad. Look at it right there in around verse 19 and 20. Man, y'all heat that furnace up. They talking too much. Now, some folks survive that regular fire, but we finna make this fire 7 times hotter. Talking all that nonsense. 7 times more hotter than usually. Matter of fact, some translation says that the men that opened the furnace, they got burnt up just trying to open the door. And then verse 21 says they bound their coats, their trousers, their turbans and garments. And I tell you, they want to make sure they catch on fire. They left all their clothes on. All them inflammatory things, they put them in there. Make sure they had plenty. And see, this is where God shows up. And then they cast them in the midst of the furnace. And boy, this is another shouting point, Rashida, because sometimes when folk put you in stuff, they think it's going to be your end. Boy, they be putting you in, because they know other folk, nobody else survived. And they think because when you in it now, you ain't going to survive. But listen, when God get involved. Now, I really want to ask the question, because you got to really think about this. Now, when did God get involved? When did God really start getting involved in this situation? Now, because you got to remember, when there were men who opened the door, and just opening the door, they got burned up. And now, listen, the Hebrew boys, now that fire was so hot, 7 times hotter. And they walked in the fire. You see, y'all got to know when to shout. They walked in. Because I tell you, what burned other folk up, God will let it not burn you. and they didn't, the Lord was with them right there. When they opened that door and that heat came out and they were going in, the Lord was with them right there. Now he wasn't with them physically, but somehow, I ain't gonna shout, but somehow or another, God put a hedge of protection. We know God is got a record of putting a hedge. Ask the devil with Job. You got a hedge of protection. And so they went on in that fire. And so they wasn't even worried about that. And these 3 men, verse 23, fell down, bound in the midst of the fiery furnace. But they fell, they pushed them, fell down. It's over for them. Verse 24, the king was astonished and rose hastily. And then this is the part I want to really get to. Did we not put 3 men bound in this fire? Put 3 in. And they said to the king, true, O king, 3 we put in here. But boy, this is where God gets involved. 3 in the fire. That's what I put in there. 3. There's 3 of them in there. I put them in. I saw them go in myself in the fiery furnace. But the king says in verse 25, look, he answered, I see 4 and all of them walking around. You see the word loose? Loose men. Boy, I don't know what the Lord, but you know, this is, when he says the 4th man, and I need to explain this to you, the 4th man was not God himself. The 4th man was Jesus Christ, because this is what is called a theophany. A theophany is an Old Testament appearance of Jesus Christ when he wasn't in the flesh, but he was in the spirit. And so he showed up. And when he showed up, he got in the fire with them. Because I need to tell you, Jesus will get in the fire with you. And I can make a couple of y'all shout, because y'all can testify he been in some fires with you. Ain't he been in some fires with you? Some stuff folk put you in and thought they were going to destroy you, but he got in it with you. Because he'll get in the fire with you. Now, some said that that when he was in there waiting on them, and when they And before he got in there, he had already cooled the fire. He already got in there and took the temperature down. I see, I'm scary. We all scary. We men, y'all tougher than we. Got to go to the doctor. They tell us we got to have a procedure. Boy, we up all night. Scared. Yeah. Be worried about what the doctor gonna say. Be nervous the whole time. I used to be like that till I started praying and said, and since I read this, I'd be like, Lord, cool the fire before I get there. To lower my anxiety. Because however this work out, I'm going to be all right. Because I'm telling you, he'll get in the fire with you. And he'll cool things. Cool things down. Listen, he'll cool things down. And what burn other folk won't burn you. The Lord will cool things down. And he says, I see 4 loose, or 4 men loose, walking around. I don't have time, but a lot of people suggest what they were talking about. Now, we don't know what they were talking about, but whatever they were talking about, it was so good talk. And a good place to be talking, because you could be burning, but you're talking. He talking to them, they talking to him. And listen to what Nebuchadnezzar said. They walking around and they are not hurt. Now, one thing to be walking around, but now they ain't hurt, and they in a fiery furnace that's been heated 7 times hot. And it's got to be some injury to them. But they walking around with Jesus. And they're not even hurt. And see, folk be looking at you, how you survive what it is you've been through. And they wonder how you're still standing, because you were walking with Jesus. He was in that fire with you. Through many dangers, toils, and snares. I've already come. I mean, listen, you listen to some of the old songs, and the older you get, and the more time get behind you, you start knowing what these songs really mean. And one of my favorite songs now is Walk With Me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me while I'm on this tedious journey. I want Jesus to walk with me. Don't leave me alone, Lord. Don't leave me alone. Don't leave me alone, Lord. Don't leave me alone while I am on this tedious journey. I want Jesus. Y'all better quit. Now see how y'all got together with that song? That let me know there's some folk in here he been walking with. Because we didn't even have to practice that, and we were all in harmony. Because I got some folk that he been walking with. See, that's old church stuff. That when one person break out in a song, and we already connected because we've been through some things. Boy, I tell you, he walked with them. They wasn't hurt, but they walking around. And then this is where they says he had this Peter experience, because Nebuchadnezzar said something. Because you remember when Jesus asked his disciples, who do men say that I am? And they started speculating. Elijah, and some said one of the prophets, but Peter said, thou art the Christ. Look what Nebuchadnezzar says. And the fourth one looked like somebody. He ain't never seen Jesus, but said he looked like. Ain't that something? He ain't, Nebuchadnezzar ain't never seen Jesus. But he says the form of the fourth looked like the Son of God. Now we can speculate why he could describe the fourth person with this form. But you have to read all the scripture to get some kind of speculation, an idea why he was assumed this. You have to go all the way to the New Testament. Because you remember when he's on the Mount of Transfiguration, the greatest sun in the sky, the greatest light in the sky is the sun. But on the Mount of Transfiguration, he outshined the sun. You know how bright that furnace was with that fire burning? But Jesus illuminated in all of that light. And he just looked like the Son of God. And then verse 26, I'll tell you, I'm almost finished. I'm gonna be short today. Verse 26. Boy, this verse 26, because see, now this is a pagan king done erected an image of himself and want folk to worship it. Now 3 Hebrew boys refused to worship it. So this is a pagan man, a worldly man who is worshiping himself and want other folk to worship him. But by verse 26, when he see what kind of God the 3 Hebrew boys got, because you remember he asked the question, who is this God? Listen, God answers your questions. Who is this God? And now God done introduced himself to Nebuchadnezzar in the form of the Son of God. The text says, and when Nebuchadnezzar went near the mouth of the burning furnace, he spoke to Rashach, Meshach, and Abednego. And he started calling them the servants of the Most High. Come out. Now, first of all, you told them to go in. But now you talking about come out and come here. I am a living testimony. Should have been dead and gone. But Lord, you let me. Should have been dead. And every Sunday you come to church, you a living testimony. Because there's 100 things that could have got you out there, but you're still here. Accidents you could have had, medicine you didn't take right, food you ate that could have been poisoned, gunshots that missed you and hit somebody else. You're still here. Come out of here. And then verse 27, there's another shouting part of the verse, because all them folk that wanted them to see them destroyed, because these administrators and governors and the king's counselors, all of them were gathered together. And they saw these men. I'm closing because this is where I want to shout. Because see, you see me now, but I'm still here. I've been in the fire, but I'm still. The devil thought he had me, but I'm still. Cancer thought it had me, but I'm still here. The doctor said they couldn't do no good, but I'm still. Now this is the part. Now this is where I want to take advantage of the class that Christopher Davis told us to take, the imagination of preaching. So I'm going to put my spin on this and I'm closing. Because listen to what he said. They saw these men and their bodies, to whose bodies the fire had no power. Now I'm going to use what is called imagination in preaching when it says the fire had no power. Because Jesus was in the fire with him, he took the heat from the fire. He took the heat out the fire. And then he turned this, it says that the hair was not singed, and their garments affected, and the smell of smoke wasn't on them. Not only did he take the heat out of fire, but he took the burn out of the flames. Well, you got to know when to shout. Took the heat out of the fire, the burn out of the flame. The fire was burning, but it couldn't burn them. And then the smoke was smoking, but the smoke couldn't get its smell on them. Because that's the kind of God. Because God will let you go in and he'll keep you. And what? Take the heat out of the fire. The burn out of the flames. And he'll keep you. You'll go in looking like you look and come out looking like you look when you went in. Because see, that's the kind of God we serve. When God gets involved, he'll keep you, protect you, hold you, preserve you. Now look at this. Now look at this man. He, verse 28, over there earlier verse at the end of verse 15, he said, who is this God? But now in verse 28, he's talking about blessed be the God of Rashak, Meshach. Blessed. Because God will introduce himself to your enemies. He'll introduce himself to folk that try to tear you down and throw you in the fire. But they ought to have enough sense to, when they see that God is with you, they ought to be able to give God some praise. You know what Nebuchadnezzar is saying? I know you didn't make it on your own. The God you serve got you through this. Because let me tell you, only God, and only a God, Nebuchadnezzar realized could do something like this. Man, I ain't got no credit to give to myself. Listen, the Lord done it. And the Lord gonna do it. You want to know how I made it? The Lord. If it had not been for the Lord on my side, where would I be? He kept my enemies away. Turned the darkest nights to a bright and shiny day. He rocked me in the cradle of his love. And then he rained down his blessings from above. If it had not been for the Lord on my side, where would I be? Nebuchadnezzar says, blessed be the God of Meshach, Meshach, and Abednego, and who sent his angel. And that's the part you got to get a little shout on too, because the angel, or his angel, capitalized in your Bible and mine, capital H-I-S, his angel, which is Jesus Christ. That the Lord will send the Lord when you need him. He'll send Jesus when you need him. When he sees you in a situation where other folk put you in that they don't think you get out, he'll send his angel, the Lord Jesus Christ. And he'll get in that fire with you. Whom you trust. Let me give you this story. And I know you done heard this story before. It's an old story, but I'm going to tell you. The little boy going to school, getting beat up every day. Boy, they go and them older boys, they beat him up every day. beat him up, beat him up. Cafeteria, beat him up. Hall, beat him up. At the locker, beat him up. Just beat him up every day. School over. Walking home, they beat him up. He went home every day beat up and bruised. Finally, one day, his big brother asked him, man, what's going on? Little boy started crying, told his big brother, every day I go to school, they beat me up. And you don't fight back? Yeah, I fight back, but they stronger than me. They always beat me up. They tell me they're going to get me. Then when school is over, they get me. And the older brother, the big brother didn't say nothing. Said, well, all right, just go on to school tomorrow. Little boy went to school the next day. School was out. And little boy was expecting to be beat up again. But he opened the school door, walked down the school sidewalk, walking home. Saw the boys following him, thought he was going to get beat up. But they didn't jump on him this day. And boy, he was happy. Guy went to school the next day. School let out, they told him, we're going to get him. They're going to get him. And opened the school door, walked down the sidewalk, walked home. They didn't get him that day. He went home happy. Went to school the next day. Same thing happened. Boy, he was with school thinking he's going to get beat up. They didn't let me slide 2 days. They're going to get me today because they told me. Went home the third day. They didn't beat him up. Went to his big brother, older brother, said, man, I think I got this thing. I ain't been beat up in 3 days. And he was telling his brother all that he had done, and they never beat him up. They followed him, but they wouldn't jump on him. They were staring at him, but they wouldn't get him. He was telling his big brother, and his big brother finally had to tell him. They didn't beat you up because they saw me. You got to know when to shout. Because folk will get you when they don't see your big brother, and his name is Jesus. And the reason why you done survived something, the fire and the devil bullying you, at some point the devil looked up and saw your big brother. Let me tell you, it's a time when God will get sick of watching you get beat up. And he'll send your big brother Jesus. And he saw the 3 Hebrew boys in the fiery furnace, and he decided to dispatch Jesus. When Nebuchadnezzar looked in there and saw the big brother, they didn't make it because they had power, but Jesus was in there with them. I don't have no shouting part of this sermon, but I can tell you the Lord will go with you. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. While I'm on this journey, sure knows tedious. I sure need you, Jesus, to walk with me. Be my friend, Lord. Be my friend. Be my friend, Lord. Be my friend. While I'm on this tedious journey, I need you, Jesus, every day of my life to walk with me. Do I have any witnesses in here that you need the Lord to walk with you every day while you are on this tedious journey? Because it gets hard out here sometimes. The way get hard. And the hill get hard to climb. And the night get dark. And you need the Lord. Every head bowed. The invitation is this: if you don't know the Lord, you can know him today. And if you accept him today, he will walk with you the rest of your life. If you're here today and you don't know Jesus Christ, God is getting involved. That's why some of y'all still here. You survive. It's because what the devil thought he could use to take you out, the Lord got in that thing and he brought you through it. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, you've all already come. I almost gave up. You almost gave up, but God, he kept me. If you're here today and you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, the invitation is this: come to him and know him. If you're here today and you want to join the church, if you're here today and you desire prayer, you here today and you want to recommit yourself, if you're here today and you say, Pastor, that sermon really reached me because I feel like I'm in a fiery furnace. I don't know what to do. It looked like my enemies have overcome me and overtaken me. It looks like my end is near. But the message has inspired me. I know that the Lord is in whatever I'm in. And what he let me go in, he gonna let me get out. What he let me go in, he gonna get me through. And on the other side of what I'm in, I'm trusting God to get me through it. And you said, Lord, I need you to give me the strength to endure what I'm going through. The door of the church is ajar, and you here, you just desire prayer. Walk with me, Lord, walk with me. Walk with me, Lord, walk with me. While I am on this tedious journey, I want Jesus to walk